Thank you, and Special Envoy, Secretary Kerry, thank you for your time today. Earlier, we had an exchange that I guess I can only describe as childish, but I thought I would engage a little bit on the science. How old's the Earth?
I don't remember how many billions, but
4.5.
billions.
I'll answer. It's 4.5 billion years, or in another way of looking at it, 4,500,000 millennium. And I used to, with my kids, walk through an exercise if the Earth was a year old, where things play. And just some of the numbers on that, if the Earth was a year old and formed in January 1st, it would be mid-February when life arose on Earth. It would be sometime in mid-November where the fish started swimming in the oceans. The dinosaurs would have gone extinct around Christmas, and all of human existence would have been captured in the last hour of the last day of the year. So this idea of comparing numbers from long ago, human existence is a relatively very short period of Earth's existence. The other thing in this, Mr. Secretary, just to state the obvious, is there a difference between life existing on Earth and civilization thriving on Earth?
Sure.
And is what we're talking about addressing climate change, making sure we're doing everything we can to ensure that civilization, society, America continues to thrive on Earth?
Indeed.
Okay. Just another statistic I'll point out, 40% of all people on Earth live within 100 kilometers or 62 miles of a coast. In the United States, that number is 50% of all Americans live within 50 miles of the coast. And in some of the notes in preparing for this last night, I read that the first experience of climate change is oftentimes with water, whether it's too much or too little. I think that is one of the key things we face. It's our biggest threat to our nation, climate change is, to our way of life, to world, to the civilization, and halting the displacement, instability, and myriad of other consequences, I think, is the greatest challenge, or one of the greatest challenges we face. So thank you for your leadership in addressing this. And I know in Congress, last Congress, we passed the Bipartisan Infrastructure and Jobs Act. We passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which is being accorded as the greatest to date investment. And one of the pieces of that I'm very proud of was the work we're doing on sustainable aviation fuel. We have to eliminate or reduce greenhouse emissions every way we can. We can electrify our ground fleet. Our air fleet will be something different. Secretary, can you talk about how we're working with our friends, as well as our adversaries or competitors, to ensure that we're doing everything we can to reduce greenhouse emissions for the long term?
Well, Congressman, thank you. I mean, obviously, the entire UN process is geared to bring people together around a common goal. And that goal is to try to keep the Earth's temperature increase limited to 1.5 degrees. Why 1.5 degrees? Because, again, the scientists have running all the models, a myriad of models, by the way, which show what the damage is to Earth at certain levels of temperature. And so that is our goal. And the only way to achieve that goal is by coming together on a multinational basis in order to negotiate some common sense approach as to how we're going to deal with this. Now, 20 countries, the 20 largest economies on the planet, equal, shy of 80% of all the emissions. 20 countries are the principal cause of what is happening today. 10 of those countries or so have all agreed to plans to try to reduce emissions to keep the 1.5. We're still working with other countries to empower them to be able to do that. If a country is entirely dependent on coal today, they're not going to shut their economy down overnight. So we've got to try to find a way in common enterprise for all of our lives, for life on the planet, to help some of those countries to be able to make that transition. And we're getting a little stuck there because some people just don't want to do that.
So, and I just want to reclaim my time to make two last points. But one, the United States can't solve this problem alone.
Correct.
To work with the world, but the world can't do it with the United States. But to my colleagues on the other side, we're talking about the sacrifices people are being asked to make to address climate change. I would argue that the costs we're putting on people by not addressing are far greater. Food will cost more. as you touched on already. Insurance either costs more or is completely unavailable for people living in states. Cleaning up after major extreme weather events, from hurricanes, tornadoes, fires, droughts. Every one of these is putting an economic burden on communities across the nation and across the world. And if we don't act now, if we don't lead, it's only going to get worse. I yield back.